ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajak Astotara Shata Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Srila Sachinanda Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jaya Shri Rupa Sanata Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunatha Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Gurnath Raj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. ISKCON Dharma Guru Vrinda Ki Jai. Samaleta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gora Pramanande, Hari Bol, all glories to these humble devotees, all glories to these humble devotees, all glories to these humble devotees, all glories to Sri Sri Guru Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayana Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayam Hridayat Nastapreshu Abhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavdi Naistiki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by the rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. All right, good morning, everybody. Sorry I was like a little bit late. It was this whole day I've just been running late. Okay, so we're reading Canto 5, The Creative Impetus, and Chapter 1, The Activities of Maharaj Priyavrata. And today I'll be doing verses 34 and 35. So I'll just read 34 and then we'll do 35 together. Okay. So text 34. Duhitaram Chorja Vatim Namo Shanase Prayach Chad Yasyam Ase Devayani Inama Kavya Sutta. Okay, the translation. King Priyavrata then gave his daughter Urjasvati in marriage to Shrukacharya, who begot in her a daughter named Devayani. All right, text 35. Naivam Vidha Purusha Kara Urukramasya Sam Tarangri Rajasajita Sadgunanam Chitram Vidura Vigata Sakrit Adadita Yana Madhyam Aruna Sajahati Pantam Naivam Vidha Purusha Karam Urukramasya Sam Tarangri Rajasajita Sadgunanam Chitram Vidura Vigata Sakridadadita Yana Madhyam Aruna Sajahati Pantam Naivam Vidha Purusha Karukramasya Sam Tarangri Rajasajita Sadgunanam Chitram Vidura Vigata Sakridadadita Yana Madhyam Aruna Sajahati Pantam
Naivam Vidha Purushakara Urukramasya
Naivam Vidha Purushakara Urukramasya
Sam Taram Virajasajita Sadgunana
Sam Tarangri Rajasajita Sadgunanam
Chitram Vidura Vikata Sakradadadita
Chitram Vidura Vigata Sakridadadita
Namadheya Madhuna Sajahati
Yana Madhyam Aruna Sajahati Pantam
Naivam Veda Purusha Kara Urukramasya
Naivam Vidha Purusha Kara Karmakurasya
Usam Tadangri Rajasa Jita Shadgunanam
Sam Tarangri Rajasajita Sadgunanam
Chitam Vidura Vigata Sakridadadita
Chitram Vidura Vigata Sakridadadita
Yanam Adayam Aduna Sajahati Vandam
Yana Madhyam Aruna Sajahati Pantam
Naivam Vidha Purushakara Urukramasya
Naivam Vidha Purusha Kara Urukramasya
Sam Tadam Virajasajita Sadgunana
Sam Tarangri Rajasajita Sadgunanam
Sam Vidura Vigata Sakridadadita
Chitram Vidura Vigata Sakridadadita
Namadheya Madhuna Sajahati Bandha
Yana Madhyam Aruna Sajahati Pantam Naivam Vidha Purusha Naivam Vida Purusha Kara Brahmanasya Hum Samtarangri Rajasa Jita Satgunanam Chitram Vidura Vikata Sakridata Tita Yana Madheya Madhuna Sajamati Bantam. All right, word for word. Na, not. Evam Vitaha, like that. Purusha Karaha, personal influence. Aru Kramasya, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hum Sam, of the devotees. Tat Angri, of his lotus feet. Rajasa, by the dust. Jita Sat Gunanam, who have conquered the influence of the 6 kinds of material whips. Chitram, wonderful. Vidura Vigita, the 5th grade person or the untouchable. Sakrit, only once. Adadita, if he utters. Yat, whose. Namahedyam, holy name. Aduna, immediately. Sa, he. Jahati, gives up. Bandham, material bondage. Okay, translation by Srila Prabhupada. Ki Jai. My dear King, a devotee who has taken shelter of the dust from the lotus feet of the Lord can transcend the influence of the 6 material whips, namely hunger, thirst. Huh?
Did you say whips or waves?
It said whips.
Wave. Up here.
Well, this one says whips.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. What does it say on here?
Waves is material waves.
Yeah.
Whips,
And here it says whips. Okay. The 6 material whips or waves, namely hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, old age, and death. And he can conquer the mind and 5 senses. However, this is not very wonderful for a pure devotee of the Lord, because even a person beyond the jurisdiction of the 4 castes, in other words, an untouchable, is immediately relieved of the bondage to material existence if he utters the holy name of the Lord even once. All right, please repeat. My dear King, a devotee who has taken shelter of the dust from the lotus feet of the Lord can transcend the influence of the 6 material whips or waves, your choice. All right. Namely, hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, old age, and death. He can conquer the mind and 5 senses. However, this is not very wonderful for a pure devotee of the Lord. Because even a person beyond the jurisdiction of the 4 castes, in other words, an untouchable, is immediately relieved of the bondage to material existence if he utters the holy name of the Lord even once. Okay, purport. Shukadev Goswami was speaking to Maharaj Parikshit about the activities of King Priyavrata, and since the king might have had doubts about these wonderful uncommon activities, Shukadev Goswami reassured him. My dear king, he said, don't be doubtful of the wonderful activities of Priyavrata. For a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything is possible, because the Lord is also known as Urukrama. Urukrama is the name for Lord Vamanadev, who performed the wonderful act of occupying the 3 worlds with 3 footsteps. Lord Vamana requested 3 paces of land from Maharaja Bali, and when Maharaja Bali agreed to grant them, the Lord immediately covered the entire world with 2 footsteps, and for his 3rd step, he placed his foot upon Bali Maharaj's head. Sri Jayadev Goswami says, Chalayasi Vikramane Balam Adbhuta Vamana Padanaka Nirajanita Jana Pavana Keshava Drita Vamana Rupa Jaya Jagadish Hare. All glory is to Lord Keshava, who assumed the form of a dwarf. O Lord of the universe, who takes away everything inauspicious for the devotees. O wonderful Vamanadev, you tricked the great demon Bali Maharaj by your steps. The water that touched the nails of your lotus feet when you pierced through the covering of the universe purifies all living entities in the form of the river Ganges. Since the Supreme Lord is all-powerful, he can do things that seem wonderful for a common man. Similarly, a devotee who has taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord can also do wonderful things, unimaginable to a common man. And by the grace of the dust of those lotus feet, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore teaches us to take shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. Ayi Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Budhao Kripa Tava Para Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrisham Vijantaya. O son of Nanda Maharaj, I am your eternal servant. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms of your lotus feet. Lord Chaitanya teaches us to come in touch with the dust of the Lord's lotus feet, for then there will undoubtedly be all success. Because of the material body, every living entity in material existence is always disturbed by sadguna, 6 whips. Does this say waves or whips?
Waves.
Weird, okay. 6 whips, hunger, thirst, lamentation. I feel like whips, it seems a little better because those things are whipping us into.
Probably because of today's.
Yeah, I suppose if you have some connotations. Okay, anyway, because of the material body, every living entity in material existence is always disturbed by sadguna. 6 whips, hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, invalidity, and death. Furthermore, another sadguna are the mind and 5 sense organs, not to speak of a sanctified devotee, even a chandala, an outcast, who is untouchable, is immediately freed from material bondage if he utters the holy name of the Lord even once. Sometimes caste brahmanas argue that unless one changes his body, he cannot be accepted as a brahmana. For since the present body is obtained as a result of past actions, one who has in the past acted as a brahmana takes birth in a brahmana family. Therefore, they contend, without such a brahminical body, one cannot be accepted as a brahmana. Herein it is said, however, that even with Vidura Vigata, a chandala, a 5th class untouchable, is freed if he utters the holy name even once. Being freed means that he immediately changes his body. Sanatana Goswami confirms this. Yata kancanatam yati kamsam raja vidhanata tata diksha vidhanena vijatam jayate nirnam. When a person, even though a chandala, is initiated by a pure devotee into chanting the holy name of the Lord, his body changes as he follows the instructions of the spiritual master. Although one cannot see how this body has changed, we must accept on the grounds of the authoritative statements of the Shastras that he changes his body. This is to be understood without arguments. This verse clearly says, Sajahati Bantam, he gives up his material bondage. The body is a symbolic representation of material bondage according to one's karma. Although sometimes we cannot see the gross body changing, chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord immediately changes the subtle body. And because the subtle body changes, the living entity is immediately freed from material bondage. After all, changes of the gross body are conducted by the subtle body. After the destruction of the gross body, the subtle body takes the living entity from his present gross body to another. In the subtle body, the mind is predominant. And therefore, if one's mind is always absorbed in remembering the activities or the lotus feet of the Lord, he is to be understood to have already changed his present body and become purified. Therefore, it is irrefutable that a Chandala or any fallen or low-born person can become a Brahmana simply by the method of bona fide initiation. Om Jnana Timirandasya Vijnana Shalakaya Chaksharamanajam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamrupa Karamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrachatan Sahakanaranatam Tam Tam Sajivam Savadetam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vikambitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Chakapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhana Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakopa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All right. So I feel like it's been a little while since I gave class, and I was a little nervous because there was all these verses that didn't really have a meter, and so I was really kind of freaking out, but I lucked out. So thankfully Krishna was merciful on me. All right, so in this verse we have Sukadeva Goswami, and he's talking Parikshit Maharaj, and he's talking about the great devotee king, King Priyavrata, and how he was able to be a great devotee even when he appeared to be entangled in material life. He's got his kingdom, he's got his wife, he's got his family, his children, and this is because one who chants the holy name, they're relieved of that material bondage. King Priyavrata appeared to have all the trappings of material life. And I was thinking about this last night. There's that phrase, they have all the trappings of fame or all the trappings of this. And I thought that's interesting because these things, that would be like everything that's associated with that. And these things really do trap us here in the material world. And so I looked up, what is the origin of that phrase? I was just curious. But it initially referred to just like cloth and accessories that medieval knights would put on their horses, and that was called trappings. But now we use it to refer to literally kind of the paraphernalia of any particular aspect of life, So the trappings that King Priyavrata has, are his kingdom, his family, things like that. So even someone who's done serious things and serious offenses can be relieved by chanting the holy name. So it took me a while to remember where I found this verse, but I did find it last night in the 6th canto, which of course it's in the story of Ajamil, which is, such a profound story about the power of chanting, right? And so in the 6th canto, it says, the chanting of the holy name of Lord Vishnu is the best process of atonement for a thief of gold or other valuables, for a drunkard, for one who betrays a friend or relative, for one who kills a brahmana, for one who indulges in sex with the wife of his guru or another superior. It is also best method of atonement for one who murders women, the king, or his father, or one who slaughters cows. and for all other sinful men, simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Vishnu. Such sinful persons may attract the attention of the Supreme Lord, who therefore considers, because this man has chanted my holy name, my duty is to give him protection. This continues in the next verse. By following the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies of undergoing atonement, sinful men do not become as purified as by chanting once the holy name of Lord Hari. Although ritualistic atonement may free one from sinful reactions, it does not awaken devotional service, unlike the chanting of the Lord's names, which reminds one of the Lord's fame, qualities, attributes, pastimes, and paraphernalia. So we can see in so many stories in the Bhagavatam, we hear of so many kings, they're doing so many sacrifices and all these things. But really, if they would just chant the name of the Lord, they would have the results of all those sacrifices and more, right? And so we can overcome so much with the power of chanting. I mean, and I'm pretty sure most of us haven't done half the things on that list. That was, I hope not. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure I haven't killed a Brahmana, or murdered women or king or my father. I haven't done any of those things. So there's hope for me, right? There's hope for all of us if we just chant. And so we can overcome so much with the power of chanting. The material things don't affect us as much. And so I can see this in a very simple way. I remember when I first moved into the temple, it was during COVID, and we would go out to the Reed Park to do Harinam. We do a sitting Harinam there. And in the evening, sometimes it would get really cold, and we would be chanting, and we wouldn't really notice how cold it got. But as soon as we stopped chanting, all of a sudden we're freezing, right? And so then we would start chanting again, and we wouldn't feel the cold anymore. And so that's, something that I noticed, and I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. We just were able to overcome that material element of the cold, right, just by chanting. And so one of the other things that we can overcome is lamentation. And so right now there's so much lamentation going on in the world, just lamentation everywhere, right? We're lamenting about the political state in the world. We're lamenting about these horrible revelations that the people that are running the world are doing these really horrible things. And so there's a lot of lamentation in the world right now. But really, we shouldn't fall into lamentation. The Bhagavad Gita tells us, Krishna says, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living or the dead. So this doesn't mean that we shouldn't care about these things, because we should care about these things. When things are, when we see injustice, we should care about that. But we shouldn't lament about it, because lamentation has a tendency to kind of keep us stuck in the same position. And what we should be doing is focusing on what is the original problem. What is the original problem? What is the biggest problem? And of course, that biggest original problem is the cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death. And so if we focus on that and trying to fix that problem, then we have a much better chance of stopping it, right? Stopping that cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death, which contains all these things that we're lamenting about, right? So it's kind of getting at the root of the issue. And also, if we truly understand the true position of ourselves and other living entities, and we understand how to carry out what the actual purpose of life is, which is devotional service, then lamentation, it just doesn't really fit into that, right? Because we realize, oh no, we should be working towards building our relationship with Krishna and performing devotional service. So there's no room for lamentation in there. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about some devotees, the devotees in the Soviet Union in the early days. So they used to have meetings, kind of like we had like Krishna Cove, or like this meeting, where they would, associate with one another, talk about scripture, and they would, talk about trying to distribute books, even though it wasn't allowed. It wasn't allowed in the Soviet Union, right? If they did distribute books, they were harassed, they were arrested, and it was not easy at all to spread Krishna consciousness. And so the devotees, they're having a meeting like this, and suddenly the KGB came in and burst into their meeting, and they just started writing everybody's names down and arresting people. And they were taking their typewriters, and because this is what the devotees would do, is they would actually hand type copies of the Bhagavad Gita so they could distribute them, right? And so when the KGB came in, they would scramble around. They're trying to hide all the copies. They're trying to hide the typewriters, and what they did is they made sure that every devotee there was trained on how to type out these Bhagavad Gitas, how to bind them, how to distribute them, because they never knew which one of them was going to get arrested. And so everybody had to be trained in everything so that if one of them got arrested, they could still carry on trying to spread Krishna consciousness, trying to give out Bhagavad Gitas to the people. And so they were just threatened and arrested over and over again. Their families were threatened. And one devotee, he was thrown in prison for years. And he was only eating salted bread. And that's the name of this book you can read about. His book is called Salted Bread. He was only eating salted bread because that was the only vegetarian item that he could get in the jail. And so he even made little japa beads out of the salted bread. He rolled the bread into balls and he made japa beads. And so he was still trying to carry on his devotional service, chanting his rounds while he's in this jail. And so he was preaching to the other prisoners. And so what was happening is they were sending him to a psychiatric hospital, and the other devotees too, where they were like forcibly injected with all kinds of psychotropic drugs, and they were beating them, and he was beaten so badly and tortured, but still he was chanting his rounds, and eventually he was sentenced to hard labor in Siberia, which he did for the rest of his 2-year sentence. And so because of all that torture and beatings that he got, he actually, to this day, has lasting vision problems, and he has chronic spinal pain because of this. But still, the devotees persisted, right? And so finally, the devotees were able to get ISKCON formally registered with the Soviet government in 1989. Or they were not in 1989, but before 1989. I don't remember the exact date. And so, but in 1989, a group of 50 devotees were actually allowed to make a pilgrimage to India. And then just a few months before that, they were being beaten and tortured, right? And suddenly now they're allowed, right? So they were able to make this progress by not giving up. The KGB had been torturing them, and now they're allowed to go, right? And so the devotees, they remained fearless, they remained steadfast, they kept chanting their rounds, they kept doing what they could do, and they were able to achieve success, right? And now Krishna consciousness is spreading like wildfire in Russia, right? My understanding is that in Mayapur, there's like whole neighborhoods that are just Russian devotees, right? Now, none of that would have been possible if they had stopped to lament, right? If they had, and nobody would have blamed them, right? Nobody would have blamed them if they were lamenting. Because, it's horrible. You're being tortured. Your family's being threatened. You're being arrested. These things are terrible things. So really no one would have, thought, oh, you have nothing to lament about. They had good reason to lament, but they didn't lament because they kept their eye on the big problem. And what was that? Which was spreading this devotional service, this idea, spreading this love of God wherever they could. And they were successful. Now, if they had stopped to lament, that wouldn't have happened, right? And they, not only would they still be kind of stuck in this kind of miserable condition, but so would all the other devotees that they then later taught about Krishna consciousness that are now having beautiful devotee lives, right? And so lamentation, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't care about these things. We should care, but we should remember what the goal of human life is, right? And that is to come closer to Krishna and to share it with others. So yeah. All right. So additionally, this path is open to all. So Srila Prabhupada says that there is no material impediment to devotional service. So I have a few quotes here. I don't know if I'll read all of them, but these are from Srila Prabhupada. This one is from a lecture in 1976 in Melbourne. Srila Prabhupada says, love of God cannot be checked by any material impediments. You cannot say that I'm very poor, or how can I love God? You cannot say I'm very rich, or I'm black, I'm white, I'm this, I'm that. No, these material impediments have nothing to do for loving God. In any condition, you can love God. And if you attain that stage, then you become completely happy. I have no more want. That is perfection of life. Right? So there is no material impediment. So even, and for us, at least in this room, we don't have, the police or TPD's not coming in here trying to stop us, right, from giving out Bhagavad Gitas. They're not trying to we don't have to be very quiet and hope the neighbors don't hear us because someone's going to report us and then we'll all get arrested, right? And so we should realize that, for us, there's no material impediment. And even for those devotees in the former Soviet Union, they had so many what appeared to be material impediments, but still they persisted and they were able to be successful. Srila Prabhupada also says, one can execute devotional service even in the most poverty-stricken condition. The Lord says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. He is ready to accept from the devotee any kind of offering, never mind what, even a leaf, a flower, a bit of fruit, or a little water, which are all available in every part of the world, can be offered by any person, regardless of social position, and will be accepted if offered with love. And so we don't need to have elaborate things. We don't need to have access to so much. We can offer literally just a leaf, a fruit, a flower. Krishna will accept it. Now, Srila Prabhupada also says, when there is a material transaction, if I want to purchase something, then I must have the requisite money to purchase. It is conditioned. But if you want to render service to God or to Krishna, there is no condition. Therefore, it cannot be checked. Because I am born in a particular type, particular time, or particular country, I cannot render service to Krishna. That is not a fact. Anywhere, any part of the world, any part of the universe, any man, in any condition, he can serve Krishna. There is no impediment. And when that type of religion is followed to serve the Supreme Absolute without motive and without any impediment, then you will be happy. You are wanting happiness, peace. So if you learn how to love Krishna without any motive and without any impediment, then you will be happy. This is the program of Krishna consciousness, to make everyone happy. Atma yayatma suprasiditi prasidati means fully satisfied. So we can see that not only is there no material impediment, but this is what's going to make us happy. And we know this, right? We're told this over and over and over again, that in order to be completely satisfied, we need to have unmotivated devotional service, right? Because that is what our true nature is. And so we're trying to fill ourselves with so many other things, trying to satisfy ourselves, but they're not working because that's not what our true nature is. So most people are working against their true nature and not realizing that what their true self is a servant to the Lord. And when you finally realize that and you live your life in accordance with that, suddenly you become happy. And then there is no room for lamentation, even when terrible things happen, right? Because terrible things happen all the time. But if we're working every day towards making that relationship with Krishna stronger and that relationship with the other devotees stronger, then we know that we can actually be happy and fulfilled, completely satisfied. So this purport tells us, and the reason that there is no material impediment also is because we're not our bodies. So I really like that part in the purport where it says, let's see. The body is a symbolic representation of material bondage according to one's karma, right? So I really liked that because the thing is that we're not our bodies, right? And so if someone's saying you can't do devotional service because of your body, your various bodily designations, and I've seen this happen, I've heard it happen, that they're not understanding the most fundamental teaching, which is we're not our bodies, right? And the holy name is so powerful that it purifies us and it changes us. And so this clearly says he gives up his material bondage, right? That material bondage, our body is part of that material bondage, right? And so if we chant the holy name and we follow the instructions of our spiritual master, our body actually changes, right? And it says that twice in this purport. Let's see. When a person, even though a chandala, is initiated by a pure devotee into chanting the holy name of the Lord, his body changes as he follows the instructions of the spiritual master. Right? So, there's always so many arguments. And I think it even says that should be accepted without argument. Let's see. It does. Yes, this is to be understood without arguments. Right? And there's so many arguments happening right now on the basis of the bodily platform. Right? But you're just kind of misunderstanding or not understanding that we are not our bodies. And by doing devotional service and following the orders of our spiritual master, our body actually changes. And so it's going to remove that material bondage. So hearing and chanting is so incredibly powerful that it has the power to change our bodies. So here is a few. Let's see what time is. Okay, I'll read just one of these. So this is from the 4th canto. It says, "My dear king, in the place where pure devotees live, following the rules and regulations, and thus purely conscious and engaged with great eagerness in hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in that place, if one gets a chance to hear their constant flow of nectar, which is exactly like the waves of a river, one will forget the necessities of life, namely hunger and thirst, and become immune to all kinds of fear, lamentation, and illusion." Right? And that biggest illusion is that we're bound by this material energy. If we truly follow this, we chant, we hear, then we're released from those bonds. Also in the 3rd canto, it says, this is from Lord Kapila to Devahuti, and he says, "In the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation and thereafter he is freed and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. Thus, consciously engaged in devotional service in the association of devotees, a person gains distaste for sense gratification, both in this world and in the next, by constantly thinking about the activities of the Lord. This process of Krishna consciousness is the easiest process of mystic power, and when one is actually situated on the path of devotional service, he is able to control the mind. Thus, by not engaging in the service of the modes of material nature, but by developing Krishna consciousness, knowledge and renunciation, and by practicing yoga, the mind is always fixed in devotional service under the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For one achieves my association in this very life, for I am the Supreme Personality, the Absolute Truth. So we can see that just this process of hearing and chanting will remove those material bonds. They'll make us happy, and we'll be able to see Krishna face to face. I mean, there's nothing to really lose at all, right? And so there's so many stories of devotees that had success against all odds, right? Srila Prabhupada himself, right? He came here on the Jaladuta and had 2 heart attacks on the way over here. That seems to be a big material impediment, but he overcame it, right? Then he came, he only had $8 in rupees. That seems to be a big material impediment, but he overcame that. I mean, he overcame so many seemingly material impediments because of his hearing and chanting and following the orders of his spiritual master. I think of Haridas Thakur, right? Haridas Thakur, he overcame so many things. First of all, he was born into a Muslim family, right? He wasn't even born into a Brahmin family. He was born into a Muslim family. He wasn't even born into a Hindu family, let alone a Brahmin family. But still, he heard and he chanted, and he became a great devotee. So much so that when he was being revered by the people in the village, the ruler at the time, he wanted to kind of knock him off his perch and sent a woman to seduce him, sent a prostitute to seduce him. But still, he persisted with his chanting, and not only did he not succumb to her advances, but he turned her into a devotee as well, right? I mean, and so for many people, that would not have been such an easy task, right? And so that was not a material impediment. And then furthermore, when asked to renounce his faith in Krishna, he refused, and he was sentenced to be whipped in 22 different marketplaces. But still, even so, while he was being whipped, he was, still kind of laughing, at times smiling even at his tormentors. And then when they expressed to him, we're going to get killed because we're supposed to kill you, and you're not dying. And then he just said, oh, okay, I will die then. And then he seemingly left his body, but he didn't. He was just deep in trance. And they pushed him into the river, and he was still living. And so some time later down the river, he came to, and he got out of the river, and he started chanting again. I mean, it's great. It's like probably my favorite story, honestly. And those tormentors saw this. Some of his tormentors saw this and realized, wow, this is actually a great devotee of the Lord, because this is a great saint. Because no other explanation is there for that, right? No one could have survived that, let alone survived that with such, kind of, kindness and the humility to be like, oh, okay, yes, I'll die then, so you don't get in trouble, right? And so that seems like a whole lot of material impediments that were completely bypassed, right? And then, of course, we have, the story of Dhruva had so many material impediments, right? He was a little boy. He was going out to the forest for so long. I mean, he was like 5 years old, I think. I mean, we can't even let a 5-year-old go around the block now, And he went out to the forest, and still he was not stopped by those seemingly material impediments, right? Because he met Narada Muni and he followed his orders, he followed his instructions. Then we have Prahlad, right? Prahlad had so many material impediments. His own father was trying to kill him repeatedly. And still, Prahlad kept his faith. He kept chanting, and he survived. He survived them all. And he turned some of his classmates into devotees, right? And then Ajamil, right? Ajamil, that's like the classic story of the power of chanting the holy name, right? He just chanted at the time of his death. He chanted for his son, who happened to be named Narayan, and still he was saved, right? By the Yamadutas came, and then the Vishnudutas came and said, "Nope, you can't take him," right? And we have Gajendra. I love the story of Gajendra because he had past life as a great devotee, but he had been cursed to be an elephant, but he's the king of the elephants, and he's wrestling with that alligator or crocodile, and so long he's giving out, he's at his end, and suddenly that past life memory comes to him, and he picks up that flower and he raises it up to the Lord, and here comes Lord Vishnu on Garuda to save him, right? And so that seems like a pretty big material impediment, right? A big alligator dragging you down into the water where that's not where you live. And so all of these stories are amazing because of all those material impediments. Some of them are very terrible. Still, you were able to overcome them by your simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. So in summary, this path is for everyone. Doesn't matter, if you're born in the West, or you're born in India, or you're white, or you're black, or you're brown, or you're a man, or you're a woman. It doesn't matter if you're rich, if you're poor. It's for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're intelligent or you're not intelligent. It doesn't matter. This path is for everyone. And chanting is so powerful that it will bring us face to face with Krishna. So if we just have that faith and we keep chanting, even if we feel like, sometimes after you've been doing it for a while, sometimes you might get in a lull where, you get in a little rut. But you just keep going, keep doing it anyway. And eventually we will be face to face with Krishna one day. So I think I'll end there. If there's any comments or questions or refutations, please. Yeah, Chandrika.
First of all, like with lamentation, I know I've had personal experience in the past where, I felt something was going to make me lamentate for a long time, but by just by chanting and connecting with Krishna, I kind of had a transcendental experience that took away the lamentation, and I thought it was just miraculous and amazing, and actually a very profound experience that I had with that. So that, I definitely feel that if there's lamentation, just chant Hare Krishna sincerely, and it softens it for sure, And then on another note, and I know I've mentioned this before, but just in a different context, like when we had Krishna's home, we would have the devotees, because obviously they're very restricted because they're in their bodies and they feel the struggle of being in this body. Mm-hmm. We would find ways to engage them, even if they were like dusting some of the Krishna paraphernalia and like that. But it's amazing how their faces would light up because they did that service. Yeah. And it's like, wow, we'd say, thank you for doing such devotional service. It was so needed. And it would literally make their day or their month, or just uplift them from any lamentation they have within them. So, so I think it's still important to have that opportunity for devotees that are in their later years, or they have some impediments in their body, to still have an opportunity to do that, because it really does make a difference. And now that they're in like nursing homes and not able to do that unless someone visits and really encourages that, because there's a lot of, Maya around, they're lamenting in their bodies because they're not able to do that service. And even though it may seem so small what they're doing, but it's actually really big for their capacity.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's so easy, right? Especially when your body is not working the way it used to, and it's so easy to get in this mindset of, oh, well, I'm not useful anymore, and nobody needs me. But Krishna still wants that devotional service from you, and so it can really help you to realize, oh no, I still can do devotional service, and I can see how that would make such a big difference. Kind of get you out of that thinking of, oh, I'm old and useless now, But no, you're not. Krishna still will accept your devotional service. So it's very nice, very beautiful. All right. Any other comments, questions? Okay, we'll end here. Maharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.